The Texas Longhorns beat the Kentucky Wildcats 31-14, securing their second 10-win season in a row. And now the Longhorns, with a victory over Kentucky, are one win away against Texas A&M from securing a spot in the SEC championship. We discuss on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Longhorns, the show. Jonathan Davis, your host. It's Monday, so Tony Monk from Spot On Sports joining us once again to talk Texas Longhorns and SEC football. Today's episode of Locked On Longhorns brought to you by FanDuel. Get into the action with FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. On today's episode of Locked On Longhorns, Kentucky takeaways and reactions. In the second segment, we won, so players of the game. And in the third segment, no, it's not deja vu, but Quinn is hurt again, right? He has an ankle sprain, and how healthy, how effective will he potentially be against Texas A&M on Saturday night? All of that and more on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we get into the Texas takeaways and reactions, I just want to say, how about them boys, right? All right. So when you look at it, Texas beat Kentucky 31-14. And what I said last week on the show, I think really came to fruition. I said that we potentially were asking too much of Quinn, right? Not because we were putting too much responsibility on his shoulders. Certainly when you're talking about, one of the highest graded recruits of all time, what he's paid potentially to play football, NIL, just the position he's in, third year, 20-plus starts. He should be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But I think we have realized that the best formula for victory for this Texas Longhorns football team is an elite defense and running the ball at a really high level and allowing Quinn Ewers to play within a box, making plays off of that great run game and manipulating the defense that way. And I love the way that they ran the ball. The Texas Longhorns can be a championship team if they run the ball like they did on Saturday. So when you look at it, 46 carries for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. Trey Wisner was absolutely exceptional after, being kind of pedestrian the last 2 games. 26 carries for 158 yards, 6.1 yards per carry. Trey Wisner had 5 games this year with less than 4 yards per carry, right? So to see him explode for 6.1, I think he had 9 yards of carry in the Oklahoma game. But to see him have one of his best games of the season was really encouraging. Jaden Blue, 15 for 96. Well, now we'll get to him in a second. But Jaden Blue did have 15 carries for 96 yards and 6.4 yards per carry. And obviously you have to give credit to those big boys up front. I'll talk about them a little bit more in the next segment, but certainly did a really good job of creating holes for Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner. If Texas can run the ball like this, they can be a championship team and can beat anybody in the field. They had 5 runs of 10-plus yards, right? So 5 explosive plays in the running game. And you can look at that 2 different ways. If you have 5 plays, explosive running plays in a game, that's going to be really good. If you can get 10-plus yards on 5 different plays in one game, that's really good. But they only had 5 and rushed for 251 yards. So it's not like they were hitting Kentucky for 40 here, 30 here, 60 here, right? It was continuously 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, right? Just pounding them, just wearing them down, just getting better as the game went on. So I love to see that from Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner. And when you look at it, I love when Steve Sarkisian gets in that I'm just better than you bag, right? Like, I could do all this, all this motion, all this passing, all these bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, like, I'm just better than you. We saw this in 2022, the last year with Bijan, where I think against Baylor, they ran the ball 22 straight times in the game. I believe it happened one time again last year, but I can't remember. Last 18 offensive plays were all runs, Tony. He took the ball out of Quinn Ewers' hands. The last 18 offensive plays were runs, including a big boy I'm just better than you 15 play 86-yard drive to go up 31-14. And I said this is the formula for Texas all along. We should not be showcasing Quinn Ewers. We should be allowing him to make plays when they're available. We should be showcasing this run game and this defense, 46 carries to 31 passes, a 60 to 40% split. That's the path to Texas winning the championship. With that being said, I'm not sure who you could trust in the running back room, but you damn sure can't trust Jaden Blue, right? You can't give Trey Wisner every carry, right? We had he had the big fumble, potentially big fumble against Oklahoma that Silas Bolden picked up and, recovered for a touchdown. Outside of that, he's been pretty solid. Jaden Blue, I said, the keys to beating Kentucky and just the keys for Texas being really good moving forward is we need to feature Jaden Blue. He's the home run hitter. If you put the ball in his hands, he can hit his head on the goalpost at any moment, right? We need to get back to giving him 20 to 25 touches a game. And then what does he do? Right? When I say that, he goes out and fumbles twice. Now, one of them didn't count because he ended up getting the touchdown, but he fumbled again. So when you look at it, Jaden Blue, now over the last 12 games that Texas played, he had the big fumble against Washington when Texas was down 34-21. Now, Cedric Baxter's was worse because we were down 21-28. Probably were about to tie the game. But anyways, Jaden Blue made a bad situation worse by fumbling in that game. Fumbled twice against Mississippi State, fumbled against Arkansas last week, but the ball rolls out of bounds, and then fumbled twice in this game. One he lost, and then one, thankfully, they called a touchdown, so it didn't matter. Every once in a while, you just have that running back that can't secure the ball. And it's crazy because Tashard Choice is anal about ball security. But Jaden Blue just cannot secure the ball. So then you put Jared Gibson in. You're like, all right, we'll just put Jaden Blue on the bench. Then Jared Gibson fumbles, right? So it's like, who can you trust in this running game? Right? That's our path to victory. But damn, they cannot hold on to the ball. But with Jared Gibson, even though he's fumbled now 3 times on 67 carries, Trey Wisner has been solid. But like I said, Jaden Blue and Jared Gibson, they have had fumble issues. And that can come back to bite you at the worst possible time. The last thing I want to talk about is I love that we got Matthew Golden involved. I've been screaming it for the last couple of weeks. He is either 1A or number 2 on this team. We need to feature him every week. Either Isaiah Bond or Matthew Golden should be hitting close to 100 receiving yards because they are that level of talent. And in this offense, there has to be opportunities for them. And Quinn has to find them. And I thought he did a really good job of finding him early. 7 catches for Matthew Golden, season high. 86 yards for Matthew Golden, season high, right? He has now recorded an explosive passing play in 10 of 11 games, a 20-plus yard reception in 10 of the 11 games he's played for the Texas Longhorns. And he did all of that early on because Quinn Ewers' last pass came with 1 minute and 48 seconds left in the third quarter. So prior to that, Matthew Golden had 7 catches for 86 yards. He is capable of putting on that type of performance every week. We just need to feature him in the offense. That's the reason you go get a guy like Matthew Golden in the portal. Go ahead, Tony.
Solid win, John. Solid win. And sometimes you can't ask for no more than that in a week-to-week league. For what started off very clean for Texas in the first half, it was very questionable in the third quarter because all the fumbles, and you just mentioned that. And the minute you start trusting one player, you definitely lose faith in another, only to put another player in, do you lose faith in that guy no sooner than you gain trust in this guy. And so, the mistakes you're mentioning that is things that you definitely won't be able to afford come Texas A&M. You surely won't be able to afford this come playoff time. And you got to find a way to start playing more clean football. I think every time Texas gets in this mode where they clean one thing up, something else happens. And again, this team is really good. They have players and you'll be able to make plays to circumvent a lot of these costly mistakes. But it's not going to be every Saturday you're going to step out on the field, John, and it's going to be Kentucky. It's not going to be every Saturday you step on the field and it's going to be this team that has its losing records. Some of these days.
Really quick, I just want to say to that point, the offensive line penalty showed up again too, right? I think between the offensive line and Gunnar Helm, it was like 3-4 penalties again, right?
And when I had thought that they had been playing a lot more cleaner football within the past couple of weeks, you know what I'm saying? And these things kind of show that their faces again. So, again, one of the things that you talked about last week, and shout out to you, John, because you showed so much maturity within the last 7 days when it came to Quinn Ewers and his offense. I think the Texas fans, shout out to y'all Texas fans and everybody that supports this Locked On Longhorns channel for getting John right, because that's okay. Sometimes he got to get right too, y'all. That's what iron sharpens iron as Texas fans sharpen another. And so the thing that you have to take the ball out of Quinn Ewers' hands sometime, and he does not have to be the beneficiary every single time that we step out on the field. One thing I was wrong about, and that you were right, this run game, you expected more out of this run game, and Texas did answer the call to 250 rushing yards. And I definitely said last week, this may not be the type of offense to do that. We may not have had a running backs to do that, but we do. And we see what happens when you actually hunker down and say, we're not going to do all this gimmick, hoo-ha, wizardry stuff on offense. Sometimes we're just going to hand it off to the running back, and we're going to go pad on a pad, hat on a hat, and we're going downfield 3 yards in the cloud of dust. Like, sometimes that's what you got to do. And I think this is a really great game for Texas to be able to see that, oh my God, we actually have the ability to hand it off to a guy 25 plus times if need be. And then we can go and have a successful run game. Again, the running game at the end of the day still just needs to be complementary to what Quinn is trying to do and how Sark is trying to run the offense. So long as they can do that, and it definitely helps when the passing game isn't looking that great that day. Definitely helps when in the third quarter, especially when you're starting to have costly fumbles, albeit someone came from the running back position, but it helps you get your team back on track. And I think Sark was able to say, you know what, regardless of what happens today, I'm going to stay with this run game, and this run game is going to be the thing that's going to be able to lead us to this victory today. And I think that really happened. I did love that they got Golden involved. I know you was very high on him since the early point of the season. 7 catches for 86 yards. No, those aren't world-beating numbers, but at least it shows you when we get this kid to football, good things do happen. Isaiah Bond wasn't very healthy that day. Obviously having dealing with ankle injuries, so you kind of giving him pitch counts here and there. But even then, when Golden needed to make those plays, he did. Gunnar Helm, my blue-collar guy, he showed up. 2 touchdowns, man. Sark raves about this guy on and off the field and how he's able to help this offense out. I think when you needed to actually have some of your guys, and that was one of my questions in the past, is who are those cats when everything isn't going very well for this team that you can really count on to make things happen? I think Golden is that guy, or can be that guy. Gunnar Helm is that guy. Trent Craven Wisner, for a lot of the things that we may or may not like about the running back room, I think he's just highly dependable, John. And then on top of that, we came into a game especially where you're facing a Kentucky team that was actually fairly decent as far as the return game. I think your special team showed up, and they was able to kind of hold a lot of that down. The defense did what the defense usually does. I don't have a lot of, ticky-tacky things to point out about what this team did, just as far as the third quarter, got very, very questionable for me. I thought it got very weird. I thought obviously with Kentucky, they made the quarterback change. Boley came in and he kind of started to challenge the Texas defense a little bit with some plays here and there as far as what he was able to do. When I was thinking like, if this was anybody else of competency as a team, we could have been in a whole lot of trouble coming in that third quarter, John. But regardless, they was able to turn it around. I'm very happy with the outcome, regardless of whatever the case was. Good win for Texas as far as Saturday.
Yeah, and I think it was important for them to get the running game going in the second half the way that they did, because when you look at it on the season, Quinn Ewers completing less than 60% of his passes in the second half. Like, he is a completely different player in the second half. So you have a lead. Like you said, things are, looking a little shaky. They're not as clean. Run the ball and get out of there, right? And you still want to be creative in the run game and all of that. But sometimes, like I said, Sark needs to remember, we have a better offensive line than you do. We have bigger, better players than you do. We are going to run the ball and get results and walk out of here with a victory. And that's why they are 10-1 ahead of the Texas A&M game. Quick word from our sponsors, and then we get into the players of the game against Kentucky. On the last thing I want to say, sorry, Mark Stoops, Kentucky is not a football school, right? I know you said that a couple years ago. It's just not, right? Because you would have turned it around by now if it was. It's not a football school. Thankfully for your fans, it's basketball season, though. All right, today's episode of Locked On Longhorns brought to you by FanDuel. Tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the National Football League all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. All right, Tony, your players of the game, your units of the game, who stood out to you against Kentucky, the basketball school?
Big G, Gunnar Helm, man. Again, 2 touchdowns on the day, man. Big play. when I think they hit him on that short route as well. I mean, he shows up week in, week out. And aside from the penalty that he kind of had, that was opposed to what the offensive line was doing as well. Thought he just really had a very, very solid day, man. And if you needed to count on a guy to be able to make some plays for you when the receivers aren't acting right, maybe when the running game is looking very well, then I think Gunnar Helm can be there for you. Not going to be a world beater, but again, going to show up, going to bring his slush pail to work that day. He's going to work. I got Trey Wiseman, man. You run for 180 yards, you definitely got to make the list. Texas finally did it. They finally got elite work out of that run game, and it was by way of him. And it was funny because it's kind of ironic. I think he's earned it. If you ever had questions about who should be the lead guy in the running back room, they tried to give Jaden Blue the opportunities to do some things again, but he can't stop coughing up the ball. Hey, Trey Wiseman actually coughed up the ball a little bit too, but hey, you give me 150 yards plus rushing, I'm going to kind of leave you out there and give you an extra chance to do your thing. So big day from Trey Wiseman in the run game. Shout out on defense. Trey Moore, 2.5 sacks over the last 2 games, man. He's starting to show up, starting to be that real versatile guy we all knew he could be in Anthony Hill. Can't say enough about him. Looked like he was shot out of a cannon on 2 of those sacks that he had. A huge day from him, huge day from the defense, and big shout out to the special teams to holding one of the best returners in college football down, man. So those are my players of the game.
Yeah, now speaking of special teams, Bert Auburn, I don't know what he did in the offseason, but he hasn't been the same Bert Auburn since last year. I don't know if he cut his hair a little bit, what's going on. He missed another field goal. It didn't even look close. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know what's going on with Bert Auburn, but you get into these big games, you get into these playoff games, it may come down to a field goal, and we're going to have to rely on him to make a big one, We haven't had a game this year that's just been within a 3-point margin. We've either I guess we did beat Vanderbilt by 3 points. Let me stop lying. But outside of that, every other game has been we either got beat by 15 plus or we were beating them by 15 plus. You know what I'm saying? So, hopefully, a game doesn't come down to a missed kick. I say it all the time. CJ Stroud's probably a national champion right now if, his kicker didn't miss the kick against Georgia. You know what I'm saying? We'd be having a completely different conversation about CJ Stroud in Ohio State in college. But nonetheless, this is a Texas Longhorn podcast, so let me get back right. All right, Matthew Golden. 7 catches for 86 yards. Like I said, we need to feature him. Coming into the game, I said one of the keys was we need to feature him. He did not have a game of over 6 catches this year, and I think the last 5 games he had only had 11 catches total. On 176 routes, he only had 11 catches total over the last 5 games. So to see him get featured, 7 catches, 86 yards, he's a very talented wide receiver. I think one of the best in the country. We see him get open week after week after week, and then we watch Quinn Ewers throw the ball to the running backs and Gunnar Helm. It's like, bro, Matthew Golden is open. Like, throw the ball to Matthew Golden. You know what I'm saying? And so hopefully that's something we'll see a little bit more of moving forward. Like I said, Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden are too good of players to just give them 2 to 3 catches a week.
You know
what I mean? Like, they're too good of players to just have them as cogs in the offense. They need to be leading the offense, right? Jaden Blue as well, but I mean, we can't trust him. So Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond need to be featured in this offense. Like, it feels like they're like players like, oh, we got Matthew Golden. Let me throw it to him real quick. It's like, oh yeah, we do got Isaiah Bond. Let me throw it to him real quick. Like, nah, Sark, we need to come out and say, I'm getting the ball to Isaiah Bond. I'm getting the ball to Matthew Golden. Just because they're not divas doesn't mean you need to don't treat them like divas. You know what I'm saying?
Don't worry, Arch won't forget next year. Don't worry.
Right. You know what I mean? Just because they not, in the meeting room demanding the ball, don't mean that you don't need to demand that they get the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you gotta treat them like divas, even if they not divas. You know what I mean? To get on the ball. Trey Wisner, like you said, 26 carries for 158 yards and a touchdown. Just a workman-like performance. I think his longest run was like either 17 or 21 yards. So he wasn't going crazy, nothing super long. Like I said, just 6, 7, 8, 9, continuously pounding the defense. Jaden Blue would be on here, but he can't hold on to the ball. Jelani McDonald, first career interception. He's got a lot more playing time this year. He's had to step up into a bigger role with the Andrew Makuba injury, even though he came back. And then Derek Williams being out for the season, the promising true sophomore. But Jelani McDonald made a hell of a play on the ball. I think they were in zone coverage. You saw him show to one side, kind of trick the quarterback, and then jump to the inside and make that play. Probably the best catch of the day on offense or defense by any team. So shout out Jelani McDonald for that. Your best 4 pass rushers on this football team combined for 5.5 sacks. You talked about it. Anthony Hill with 2, Barron Sorrell with 1, Trey Moore with 1.5, and Colin Simmons, the phenom true freshman, with 1 sack. So when your 4 best pass rushers can give you 5.5 sacks, and shout out to Ty Anthony Smith. I don't want to forget him. He had a half a sack. Texas has 6 total. That is a dominant performance from your top 4 guys on this football team. And then I want to give a shout out to the offensive line. every once in a while, right? And I'm like I said, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm not the guy that's just watching trench play. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the guy that's just like, oh damn, the left guard is going crazy right now. You know what I'm saying? The right guard is going crazy right now. I am watching the quarterback in the skill positions just like you. You know what I'm saying? I am not gonna act like I am better than now, right? But every once in a while, you just watch a game and you're like, oh yeah, the offensive line going crazy right now. Like you just watch a game and you're like, okay, them big boys jumping off my screen, right? And so I wanted to look at it. I wanted to see if Pro Football Focus confirmed what I thought. And I paid $26 a month for Pro Football Focus. So y'all go get these numbers. You know what I'm saying? Everybody on this offensive line had one of their best games of the season in one facet. Cam Williams, second highest pass blocking grade of the season at 84.2. He was elite. DJ Campbell, third highest run blocking grade of the season at 65, right? He was really good. Jake Majors, highest overall grade this season against Kentucky at 74.5. Really good game from him up front. Hayden Connor, fourth highest passing blocking grade of the season, which is crazy. He was 85.7. Like that is elite, but it just shows you how good Hayden Connor has been. You haven't heard his name all season. So that shows you he's been great, right? At the left guard position. He has 7 games this year with a pass blocking grade of 80 plus. And every game this season, he's been over 70, right? Hayden Connor certainly made himself a lot of money this year at the left guard position. And then Kelvin Banks, the top 10 pick, bona fide consensus, second highest overall grade of the season at 80.1. This was a stalwart game for this Texas offensive line. This was a big boy Joe Moore Award possibly winning game for this Texas offensive line. They showed up, like you said, with Gunnar Helm with their lunch pail and absolutely moved a Kentucky defense that had a lot of talent on them and bullied them all damn day. So great performance from everybody I just mentioned, but especially the offensive line. They showed up, you know, and handled business. They stood on business against Kentucky, right? So quick word from our sponsors, and we talk about Quinn Ewers, a mild ankle sprain. How might that affect him against Texas A&M? Oh, boy. All right, today's episode of Locked On Longhorns brought to you by Gametime, right? Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can use the Gametime Picks to see them boys, right? They might be making a run into the playoffs. All in price. And another feature I love about the Gametime app, toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. See views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Gametime ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, so we got word. We saw Quinn Ewers was limping. He was gimpy. He was uncomfortable. And we got word that he had a mild ankle sprain, and he is good to go. We heard he was getting an MRI, right? And he had a mild ankle sprain, and he is good to go against Texas A&M. My first thought on this is, at this point, Quinn Ewers is just injury prone, right? Last year, high school, he has the hernia. Then his first year at Texas, he has a shoulder. Then, you know, last year he has another shoulder or whatever it was. Then this year he has the oblique. Now he has the mild ankle sprain. Like every once in a while, you just have that quarterback that comes around that just always has something, right? And Quinn Ewers always has something, you know. So now going into A&M, he has a mild ankle sprain. My second takeaway is, you thought it was broke? You know what I'm saying? Like, you thought it was like, what did you think hell's happening? You know what I'm saying? Like, what did you need an MRI for? You thought there was some type of damage? Like, I'm not even trying to clown the brother. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm obviously sitting in a podcast chair. I'm very self-aware. You know what I'm saying? I'm not out there playing football. But an MRI for an ankle sprain, a mild ankle sprain? Come on, Quinn. Come on, Quintavious. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have to take that nickname away, bro. You're getting an MRI for an ankle sprain now. Come on now, brother. I know you play quarterback, but that's some red jersey behavior right there, Quinn. Come on now. MRI for a mild ankle sprain. Now, this is what I want to say. I am in no way, shape, or form saying that Arch Manning should start or get in the game against Texas A&M. I have to preface that because I know that's like that's the contentious debate amongst the fan base right now. Right? I am no way, shape, or form saying that Arch Manning should get in the game on Saturday. I still believe that Quinn Ewers gives us the best chance to win against Texas A&M. It's going to be a very tough environment. And obviously, Quinn Ewers has been in those type of environments the last 3 years at the University of Texas. However, Quinn Ewers looked very uncomfortable after that ankle injury in the Texas game against Kentucky. Quinn Ewers has struggled with his footwork when his ankle is healthy. That man was standing flat-footed in the pocket, making throws with his arm, not his legs, with his arm, like just straight arm throws, right? He could not move at all. At all. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Steve Sarkisian decided to run the ball 18 straight times to end the game, while all of a sudden Quinn Ewers is hurt with a mild ankle sprain. So this is what I'm going to say. You're going against one of the best front fours or front sevens in the country in Texas A&M. Tough road environment. Mike Elko, we know he can dial that shit up. I am concerned that a less than 100% Quinn Ewers will be a statue in the pocket, and they will blitz him and come after him into oblivion, and we may see the deer in headlights Quinn Ewers that we saw against Georgia. Once again, I am not saying to put Arch Manning in. I am not saying that Quinn Ewers does not give us the best chance to win. But Quinn Ewers feeling uncomfortable on a bad ankle is not what you want going into Texas A&M against this defense. He could not move against Kentucky. He could not shuffle his feet against Kentucky. Maybe they can give him a Toradol shot. I think that's illegal now. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he'll feel better on Saturday. But the Quinn Ewers I saw in the second half could be a liability against Texas A&M.
Well, Quinn Ewers, episode 4, man. This has been quite the storybook feature that I've been introduced to on my first year of doing this Locked On Longhorns podcast. But it's been a treat talking about Quinn Ewers every other week because it gives us something else to segue away from the game. John, shit, man. I'm sorry. Excuse my language, but damn. I texted you I texted you on Saturday, and I was like, #hurt guy. That's who he is, John. That's who he is. And I said this last week. I said that's why my confidence level in him was 6, 7 out of 10, because I don't even know if he can finish the damn season. Like, I don't know. At any point, tissue paper. At any point, it's gonna rip. And then next thing I know, he walks into the tent. He walks to the back of the locker room. Like, don't get me wrong. We don't wish injuries on players at all. But when a player consistently continues to get injured, I always ask, why is it always him? He ain't the only quarterback out there. Dak Prescott. I know this ain't time to talk about the Cowboys, but I was thinking the same thing about him. It's always you. When it's time for somebody to get hurt, that's your name that comes up on the injury list sheet. It's your name that comes up on the broadcast. It's your name. Why is it always you? And you're the leader of the team, Quinn. So, like, do we feel great next week going to Texas A&M? No, but this is what you're gonna have. He's gonna play, and you just give him the cortisone shot, and go out there and do what you can. And you know, the ironic part about this is, John, is I actually thought Quinn was using his feet a little bit before the ankle injury happened. I saw him step up a couple of times and make a couple throws when the pocket collapsed on him. I was like, okay, look at him today. Then bam, ankle injury, and I said, God damn, that's that. I thought he may have figured it. I thought he may have figured something out just for a little bit, and then that was just taken away from him. So, I don't know the whole reason for the MRI. We just want to be precaution about it, make sure there's nothing there that's a little extra than fine. Again, I'm not going to be one to push the whole Arch Manning narrative today, because I know that's super easy to do given the sample size in which we see him today, given how the team looks and responds when Arch is in the game, and how the fans are and how we love them and all that good stuff. And the time will come, Texas fans, we must be patient, but we have to get through this year and let these things play out as they are. But I mean, John, how many times, man? How many times? And then you can only come up on here so many times and try to defend Quinn for what he's doing, but he is hurt guy. And for Sark next week, whatever this game plan is, I am glad, however, that we were introduced to a run game that was actually able to produce 250 yards when Quinn was having issues. That's good. That's good. Texas A&M, as great as they are on defense in their front seven, they aren't just lockdown world beaters when it comes to stopping things like the run and everything. Like, you can go out there and play this same type of game and then walk away with a win next week. And I think that's what Sark is going to do. If nothing else, what Texas does best: quick throws, RPOs, short passing game. Let's get the ball out of Quinn's hands. Let's get the ball out of Quinn's hands. This isn't showcase Quinn anymore. You just said that earlier in the show. We don't have to do that. Give the ball to everybody else. Yards after catch, let them go do all the work. If all I need is Quinn to make a play is 2 to 3 times, maybe. Just 2 to 3 times. Step up, do this. If you have to take off once, maybe slide, whatever the case is, be as safe as you can with him. Bubble wrap him. Just make sure that the line, again, we've seen a little bit better line play. Again, they're going to dial it up. They're going to do things like bring the blitz. But I think Texas has a type of offense that can circumvent around those things. But he cannot allow Quinn to go out here and think he's going to be Superman. He cannot allow Quinn as I was going to speak on his confidence, man, but the boy shoots himself in the foot every chance he gets. But it's going to have to be a Sark thing, man. Sark is going to have to come and get in his bag. He's going to have to be in his bag with this run game. He's going to have to be in his bag with a short passing game. I do like their chances against Texas A&M a whole lot next week, actually. I think they're going to win. But just Quinn just doesn't sell me, man. I said this last week, John. He doesn't sell me. And I think this is the same thing that Texas fans is going to be in the comments again. It's going to be in the comments again as soon as we post this video. So when you do your show tomorrow, I want you to do another one of those comment reading things and just see what Texas fans are talking about. But this is who he is, man. He's a hurt guy. It's something we're going to have to deal with, something that you're just going to have to watch. And then just, again, we don't ever wish major injuries on any players. But you just got to be really careful going with Quinn going forward, man. And this is a story. This is his story when it's all going to be said and done. And this is what we got.
Yeah, for sure. So, we'll see how healthy he is on Saturday night, against Texas A&M. Like I said, it's you definitely want your quarterback going in there 100%, but it's a mild ankle sprain. So, we'll see what happens. But, big game for Texas, and, hopefully Quinn can rise to the occasion. Excuse me. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, one more game. First time against Texas A&M since 2011. We'll be covering it all week. And once again, happy Thanksgiving break. Whatever you celebrate this week, to all. Happy holidays. Hook 'em. Peace.